Hi, welcome to the Haven Writers Guild podcast.
We invite you to join us as we explore the curious world of writing.
Right, so today we're just going to start off with an apology. Last week we mentioned that we were going to talk about marketing, but we sort of got a little bit sidetracked, so we will talk about marketing in the future because it's a very interesting subject and I'd love to talk about all the interesting directions. But today we're going to be talking about ebooks. Okay, so I was actually looking up the whole marketing bit and I came across an article concerning ebooks. It's a very fair-handed article in The Guardian.
Oh, yeah.
Starts off as, ebooks are stupid, says head of one of world's biggest publishers. The Guardian is obviously very, sensationalist. So after digging through the article for a little bit, I came upon the thoughts of Chief Executive of Hachette International.
What did they say?
Right, so what they said was, it's the limit of the ebook format. The ebook is a stupid product. It is exactly the same as print, except it's electronic. There is no creativity, no enhancement, no real digital experience. So these comments are basically surrounding ebook sales. He was sort of lamenting that ebooks aren't doing as well as they used to.
My dad uses an ebook. My dad, I grew up and he had a library of books. And now he just uses the Kindle because it's so convenient, because it's light, he can take it to bed, it's not too heavy. It's the books can be easily downloaded. They're cheaper than buying real books unless you go to a secondhand book sale. But he loves it.
The thing about ebooks is it's obviously digital, so you can send them instantaneously across the world, and you can have them at a drop of a hat. So you want a book, you can hop online, download it, get it in your Kindle very super fast. And obviously there's lots of different things, as you said, about ease of use and accessibility. You don't need a massive library anymore. I know you and I love the idea of having a massive library, yes, but I think for a lot of people, as you don't have a lot of space, you don't have the space for lots and lots of books. And at the end of finishing with a book, you can just delete it off whatever you have.
Well, I think that's the thing with a Kindle. It's like you've got 1 million books in one, really. I mean, potentially you can. Yeah. It's just one thing, and you can have as many as you like. And I think it's a bit of a novelty, also, too, for people that have always had books. The thought of having it all contained on this one little device is a bit of a novelty. Yeah,
my favourite part of it is that when you have lunch, you can just rest it up against something and read off the screen rather than have to, with a book you'd have to just open it up and weight it.
Yeah, you got to get one of those page open proper things.
Yeah,
that hold
sort
it
of
open.
Thing.
Yeah.
But, so, yes.
However, don't get me wrong, I loathe the idea of having a Kindle. That's just me.
Well, I think there is also something romantic about having a book in your hand.
It's not just romantic. It's a book. A Kindle is not a book. An ebook is not a book. I don't know why they even call it an ebook. It's not a book. A book is in your hands, and it has paper and words and pages you can turn. That's a book. I mean, you can't imagine Elizabeth Bennet sitting in her little bay window seat with a Kindle,
Yeah, absolutely. That's right.
That's a stupid thought.
No. Well, no, there's also a sense of place with the books that I find, ebooks I find strange. I like to be able to flip back through a book because I can kind of visually see where everything is. But with an ebook, it's difficult. I mean, yes, you can turn back the pages and you can go back to page such and such, but I can never remember what it is. I sort of got the visual of what is where and what's doing what.
Well, I have heard that the success of an ebook can be attributed to how good they are at making you forget that it's an ebook and forget that you're actually reading something and actually just immerse yourself. So,
there is that idea of obviously the electronic print. There's no light behind it, is there? It's sort of
it's supposed to be that soft light that doesn't hurt your eyes.
It always reminds me of nature sketching, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, we're both very familiar with reading off screens.
I'm terrible at it though. Like I have to do it for uni, looking at online journal articles and stuff, and I just can't. My eyes just skip over. I don't retain information as well. I mean, they have proven, incidentally, that you retain so much more when you're actually tactile with whatever you're learning. If you're writing what you're learning, you retain it.
Yeah.
I don't think you have the same effect when you're reading something on a screen. It's just gloss, you just gloss over. Yeah, and also I think for authors, I don't know, I think they probably are quite involved in the text size, the font itself, the layout on the page.
It's a real art, isn't it?
It is an art, and it actually is quite telling about what kind of book it is, what the author's like. It's actually a very specific choice. You know, when you pick up a book, it's not just the words inside it. It's the weight of it. It's the feel of the pages. You can get different kind of pages. It's the way they look on the page. There's a lot more to it than just the story itself. So you lose all of that with an ebook. It's a purely... it just loses that tactile experience, and you're just looking at a screen again.
Plus, it also, the ease of receiving an ebook and the ease of deleting an ebook it also kind of attributes to this whole throwaway aspect of the books. I mean, obviously paperback novels have been quite expendable for quite some time, and you can pump them out, you know, you read them on the plane and then you're on to the next one. So it's not this, you know, you save up for a while and get a book and you have this book for a long time. So I think it just adds to that whole aspect of being a throwaway kind of thing, because you can get one, you can read it, delete it, it's gone, sort of thing. So, and considering how long it takes to actually create something like a novel, it's always fascinated me that, because I've got a few novels at the moment that are in the back burner, sitting on my computer, and the file size, I think, is probably just about the same size as a JPEG, a picture. So a whole novel.
So what you're saying is picture says 1,000 words?
Yes, absolutely. I was going to say that, you got to the pun first. No, that's all right. That's all right. I can't say the corny things all the time. So ebooks sort of perpetuate this sort of throwaway aspect of
the throwaway culture.
The throwaway culture.
Yeah. But one of the things I found interesting about what you read earlier that CEO said was that there's no creativity in ebooks. And I wonder about that, because what does he expect? I mean, there's not, just because something is digital, does that automatically mean that it needs to be this enhanced experience where, you know, it's super interactive and creative and different? And turning a book into an ebook actually makes it more accessible to a whole range of different audiences. It makes them more flexible. You can take them, like you said, on the plane, on the train, without having to carry a book around. So why is that then a bad thing? Why does that make them stupid because they're not this amazing digital experience? I don't think it needs to be.
Well, one of the things he does also say is that he sort of cites the whole 3D aspect of the online world. It's basically you're taking a 2D product and putting it on in a 3D world, and you're not really using all the aspects of that online world. So there's so many different things you can do. I suppose exciting prospects.
Okay.
This is one of the cruxes that he's getting to. Later on, the article talks about that Hachette have bought up a couple of video game companies. So they're looking at different ways of, I'm pretty sure it's more than marketing this kind of work. I think they actually want to go about putting it out in a different way, which I'm actually very suspect at, because I really like books the way they are, in the format they are. And I feel if they start adding new things to it, then it could actually change the form of what a book is, which I think is actually I don't agree with that at all.
Well, how do you take text on a page and make it, I mean, how do you make that more, well, it's exactly right. You can't take the text of a book, put it into an online universe and keep it true to what it is.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I think it's the direction it's going in. I mean, let's face it, if you've got a work that goes online, you start adding other elements like music or visuals, or it becomes something very different.
Although that's what audiobooks are. I mean, they're essentially just spoken books with sometimes sound effects and music and that kind of thing, and they're very popular. So.
Well, that's right, but I mean...
Is it just the visual aspect that changes it?
Is an audiobook still a book?
Of course it is.
Is a picture book still a book? When you look at a picture book, I don't want to be condescending to children's writers and the artists that spend a lot of time doing things, but for me, picture books are training wheels that lead you to a proper book. Basically, that thick, impenetrable text. And that's all you get, which creates a visual in your own mind and is a very personal thing. And once you start adding other things to it, once you start adding music and pictures, you're basically giving someone the visual. This is exactly what I'm thinking, that's what you're saying, rather than leaving it open for interpretation. And once audiobooks as well, you sort of, when you're speaking, you're dramatizing the text. So that's your interpretation, rather than allowing the reader to create everything in their own mind, which is what I think is what's so brilliant about just that thick block text.
I don't know. I kind of like books with pictures. I mean, I love kids' books, but
yeah,
I know. Like I read a book DM Cornish's The Monster Blood Tattoo. It's full of illustrations, and I love that because I love seeing what the author themselves visualized when they were writing it.
I love maps at the start of books.
Maps are great. Maps are so good, mind you. Like after the first couple of references where you're like, oh, where is that? I never look at it.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I followed.
You follow their journey?
Middle Earth the whole way. I'm like, oh, they're there now.
And I read another book about dragons, and they'd sketched the dragons that they were coming across and stuff. And I really I think having illustrations in adult books is actually really cool because you don't get that anymore once you graduate from picture books. A lot of time it is just text. So I think introducing illustrations is great. Music, not so much. I find music distracting. However, I don't think there's anything wrong with playing with what you can do with a book. I mean, so many books have been adapted into movies. Why not adapt them into video games or, make them interactive or whatever? I mean, I'd totally play Pride and Prejudice the video game. I'd be down with that. I would walk around the little, the manor and collect treasures and books and things. Anyway, but I don't know. I mean, I guess it comes down to your definition of what is a book. And if you're saying that a book is purely a massive text-based bound document, I think that's a little narrow-minded.
Well, no, it's not so much that. It's as soon as you start adding other things, it becomes a different form. I'm quite well-versed with video games. I don't know all the video games in the entire world, but I started playing role-playing games in the early to mid-90s. And by that point, they were text-heavy. Basically, what you had was you had graphics on the screen, you had a character who can walk around, but a lot of the interactions were speech bubbles and like a lot of text.
Oh, that was so awesome.
There was one game, when you pre-ordered, you got a novelised version of the game itself.
Oh, wow.
Which wasn't a big stretch because actually when you took out all the text in the game, you could quite easily get a novel. So you had this kind of interaction between my favourite things. I love books and I loved interacting with stories, and you had the visuals, and you had the music, and you had all that kind of stuff. So for me, that was sort of the height of this morphing books. And I think that's the whole point, is books have already made that transition because those video games were. Obviously, the reason they used text was because they were actually limited with the technology. So now what you have is you basically have voice work, music, and cartoon visuals or 3D graphics. So you basically have cartoons, really. That's what video games are now. They're just basically cartoons. Whereas back then, there was that combination with the book and everything else there, which was absolutely wonderful.
Well, no, I think what you're talking about is difficult to quantify, I suppose, because...
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, I didn't really want to venture too much into there. It was more the aspect of the publishers for books sort of looking how to turn books onto an online world. And I'm saying it's actually already there. Like, that's what has happened about 20 years ago. That's what happened. And now that's what we have here. But it's a different form. If you look at a book, you look at a play, you look at a movie, you look at a video game, because I kind of put them all into the same category, because each one does something very particular. You can't get what you get from a book as you can from a movie. They're very different. And the whole aspect of having the text on the page and you reading it and you're making up your own mind, it's all inside of you, what you're creating. You don't get that from a movie. It's all given to you. It's hand-fed. It's the same with plays. It's the same with, you get other things. You get music. You get things from there. But for a book, it's very unique and it's impenetrable. And I can see how it's impenetrable because you've got this 600-700 page massive thing that's a little bit boring sometimes. Let's face it. Look at it and go, couldn't it be more interesting? Couldn't there be some interactivity? Couldn't there be some music? Or turn to page such and such. But I like my books as books.
Fair enough. And I think the thing is with this industry is that you've got audiobook sales are on the rise. Oh, quick, let's make it an audiobook. Or ebook sales are going down. Well, ebooks are stupid and we shouldn't use them. Oh, books as print are, declining, and who reads books anymore? Everybody's trying to outdo each other, and it's all this competition of what's selling the most, what's marketing, what's making the most money. But I think at the end of the day, the fact is, the more forms of sharing literature that we have, the better. I mean, if audiobooks are doing great, that's fantastic. People are listening to stories being told. That's important. If people are still reading books, there will always be people reading books. Ebooks, that's a new form. That's great. So what if it's not doing so well anymore? I mean, it doesn't have to be what's doing the best. I think the more we can explore how to actually tell stories and share this stuff, the better. I think. I mean, yes, books are completely unique, and I don't think we will ever lose how wonderful books are and how wonderful it is to experience a beautiful story that's written beautifully. But, you know, I'm quite happy to welcome what comes next in whatever form that might take.
Well, that's right. I mean, at the end of the day, we like narrative. I like books. I like movies. I like video games. I like plays. But I think behind that is the narrative. Obviously, people are purists and like things for specific reasons.
Yeah.
They like books, they're never going to like movies. So that's fine. But I think narrative is something that is changing and moving to different areas.
So shall we leave it there for today?
So yes, I think we should leave it there for today. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on the Haven Writers Guild podcast today.
If you'd like more writing support, find us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, or on our website. Or you can email us directly at havenwritersguild@gmail.com.